Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, here we are for another week of fantastic questions. I say another week. Last week, I'm afraid we had to miss the episode. I'm very sorry about that. Technical issues here at the studio meant I was literally without internet. For like 4 days. Studio's at my house, by the way, so imagine what that's like. For 4 days. I've got 2 teenage daughters. Yeah. We've got some great questions here for you. There's quite a lot because there's 2 weeks worth of questions. I took the questions from the week before, added them to this week's questions. We've got plenty. So you might want to go and make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, whatever's suitable in your region. Right, let's get to these questions. But before we do, you thought you got away with it. You thought I'd forgotten. It's not the like, share, subscribe. You've got to like, share, subscribe. And I was reminded the other day that recently I haven't reminded you. I said reminded twice in the same sentence there. I don't know if that's appropriate, but we're going to carry on. To ring the Kendo bell. That appears when you hit subscribe. There's a little bell. It's a notifications bell. Ringing that bell makes you better at Kendo. Scientifically proven fact. Exponential growth, I think, was the phrasing used by the scientists that discovered that little factoid. I'm in a good mood today. Probably could tell. Probably because I'm back doing Kendo Rant. I've missed it. I've missed you all. But most importantly, shop at KendoStar. That's the best Kendo shop in the entire galaxy. In the entire existence of mankind, let's be honest. I mean, I'd say that. Of course I'd say that. Of course I would say that. I own it. So don't take my word for it. Take the thousands of people who have rated us on the independent reviews aggregate Trustpilot. Take their opinion instead. We're one of the best rated websites, e-commerce stores on the whole internet, not just in Kendo, in the whole internet. Yeah? So get to KendoStar. Win-win. Win-win. That's what we're all about. Right, okay, that's enough ramble. Me letting off steam. Right, let's get to these questions. Okay, I haven't read any of these beforehand either, by the way, so we could have some curveballs. Let's see. Hello, Fisher Sensei. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. Question for Kendo Rant. After a long pause in the in training due to that thing, I don't like saying that word. YouTube doesn't like it. A Kenshi in our dojo gain weight. Wow, that's a strange phenomenon that probably only happened to that person, nobody else, eh? Don't know what it was with me, but in that period, my door got smaller. Anyway, it's put on in Cesar, seems correct, and the door is a bit high. The problem is the gap between, due to the belly, who's now unprotected, 4 centimetre at least, due to safety issues, being warned of the problem, and we'll try to lower the door a bit next time, but the gap will increase between the door and the ski. It's a bit tricky. Don't feel like to tell him to lose weight or buy a new burger. His burger's quite new. I'm sure I'll be better in a great KendoStar. It'll be better in a great KendoStar burger. He should have bought a KendoStar burger in the first place if he's got a new burger. I don't know. Anyway, but could he try something before doing that? Sorry for my poor English. Your English is fantastic. I'm also a bit overweight, so I know it can sometimes be tricky. Hakama folds wide open, injuries, etc. Thanks. Fantastic question. It's great. Look, not all of us are in the perfect sort of physical condition that we'd potentially like to be. That's fine. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes if you've got a little bit of extra baggage on the front, you can get a little bit of your door, if you wear your door a bit too high, it can sort of creep up and pop over the top of the tarobi, and that exposes some of your flesh, not actual flesh, but your actual, you know, tummy. There's two things you can do. One is widen the door. All right, if it's a plastic door, you can widen it. I've got a video about how to do it. If I remember, I'll post it in the comments. But if you search the Kendo RANT, play, do Kendo, because it was in the rant when I talked about using the words play Kendo or do Kendo. It's at the start of that video. I tell you about how to resize a plastic door. It's really, really easy to do. So that's one thing, you can widen it, right? That's step one. Step two is, yeah, you can wear it lower. You can wear it lower. Yeah, there'll be a bigger gap between his ago or ski dare and the top of the minute. That's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter, right? It's not the end of the world if there's a gap there. I have this one come up quite a lot, actually. Lots of people contact me like, oh, I'm 6'2" or something, and I need a special made door minute. And they don't really need a special made door minute. They just have to accept there'll be a little bit of a gap. So if I sound a bit sort of froggy, by the way, I've got a bit of a cold or something coming on. I thought it was hay fever at first, but I think it's a bit of a cold. I think one of my kids brought it home from school. So anyway, so yeah, sorry if I sound a little bit like underwater or something. It's not the microphone's fault this time. But yeah, it is normal, especially for taller players or bigger players, to have something of a gap between the ago and the top of the minute. All right. Obviously, they're not supposed to overlap for a start, or they don't have to overlap, I should say. If you're really sure of, like, you know, with a small build, like my wife and kids, they're like small women, so like they have sometimes a bit of contact there. It's not the end of the world either. But yeah, like the target size of the ago is the same on everybody. It's not, well, sort of. So, you know, it's a question, you know, I know you feel like you might want it to be a smaller gap so you protect it a bit more, which is a fair point. But at the same time, there is a compromise that has to be sort of made there. Of course, you can start to make a customized door minute that's taller, but then you start to throw off the balance of the door as well if you go too far. And I've seen it where I've seen really tall guys and they've got like this door minute that's like this, and then the door looks like this big underneath it. It looks really, really weird. So yeah, don't worry too much about the gap between the ski dare and the top of the minute. It's not the end of the world. All right, it's not the end of the world. Okay, next one. Any tips for recommendations for fighting 5th dan plus players in Shiai as a 3rd dan level player? Best I can usually do is lose 1-0 and get absolutely smoked in the last team's final I was in. It's quite tough, isn't it? It's quite tough. On paper, yeah, you should lose that match, right? On paper. But it's not really how it works either, right? It's difficult, of course it is, because they've got more experience and that's obviously a massive advantage. But that's not to say that, like, you know, I've got 6th dan or something, and so if I go into Shiai, that somebody who's 3rd dan could never beat me. That's not to say that at all. There's plenty of 3rd dans out there that probably could beat me, you know, if they got lucky. But yeah, I think the best thing you can do is just try not to get sucked into doing their Kendo with them, which is super hard because that's what they're really good at when they get more experience, is trying to get you to do Kendo in their rhythm or at their pace. But that's what you have to try to do, and try to do your Shiai and try not to get sucked into doing their Shiai. Very hard, not so easy, but you know. And the other thing as well is, and this is a piece of advice I've given players in the past actually, when they've been competing at like national team level or something like that, and it's that your ability doesn't change, like, sort of because of your opponent. Because your opponent's really good doesn't mean you suddenly get better or worse, and because they're maybe if they're really weak doesn't make you better or worse. Your ability is constant, yeah? Now your performance might not be constant, but your ability is, your innate ability is. So you have to remember that and try not to be sort of overwhelmed or influenced too much by the status or grade or even the fame of the opponent you're up against, which can be hard to do, yeah. I can tell you that from experience. You go into the World Championships, step in the shiaijo with some, a player from Japan or Korea, and they could be super famous. It feels like an uphill battle before you even start. But you have to try and push that one side, because whilst you're in the square, you are equals. You are on the same playing field. Downgrade is not part of the equation, all right? There is no joge kanke, there's no up down, it's not gokaku geiko, hitate geiko, it's shiai, and you are in the same square, on the same stage, and you've got the same thing at stake. So you have to try to develop that mindset, or try to achieve that mindset, if that makes sense. Next one, how to improve breathing techniques. You could practice kata underwater. I'm joking. Don't do that. It's like some old Jean-Claude Van Damme film. No, don't do that. All right, it's not something. Look, there's not a lot you can learn from YouTube about improving your breathing techniques. The best thing you can do is practice more and more kirikaishi, and uchikomi and kakari geiko. But one specific tip I can give you is, when you do kirikaishi, after your last, after you do your series of sayu men, right? And after your last hidari men, yeah, your last hidari men, and you return to your chudan ready for the next shomen, you should try to complete that movement in a single breath, right? So not men, ya, men, or men. It shouldn't be like this. It wants to be men, then men, this way, all right? And if you practice kirikaishi like that, especially after you do the last one where you hit, go past, turn round, try to hold that last men. So you're going men, go past, turn round, zanchin, and stop kiai then, okay? And not men. Okay, try to men when you turn around, okay? And you've got a little bit left, all right? It's not easy, it's hard. It's pretty hard, super hard. That's good. It makes you better, all right? Bit by bit, you'll start to get a better breathing technique, all right? Better than mine today. Crikey, I can't really breathe through my nose. Okay, next one. Mental training for shiai. State of mind during shiai, or something like that. Something like that. Something like what? Something like shiai? No, okay. It's a good one. And I've touched on it already, right? I think the best thing you can do, and this is funny because you don't really, I didn't start to realize this until it was much too late for me. If I'd known, it's like that Rod Stewart song, isn't it? If I'd known what I know now when I was younger. But it's a lot like that, really. It's a shame in a way in Kendo. There's a bit of a paradox that happens in that regard. You start, you gain more experience and knowledge as you sort of start to lose your physical ability. But yeah, I'd say that my problem when I was competing a lot is I did struggle a lot with the mental side of it. I struggled a lot with how to keep calm, keep my head in the game, and how to not get carried away with my emotions of the consequences of the shiai, if that makes sense. I always did best when I was able to remain calm, stay chilled, just go out and do my best match, try to use all my ability in each match individually without getting too carried away with the consequences. And when I did that, I was able to do well in matches, actually. Done all right. And even like when I did all right in some of the European championships, stuff like that, it was always through staying calm. And the minute I started to kind of let emotions slip in, or kind of the minute I started to concentrate on the consequence of the match, can't lose this one. What if I lose this? What's going to happen if I lose? Everyone's going to think I'm rubbish. No one's going to subscribe to my YouTube channel. No one's going to shop at KendoStar. What nonsense! As if that was what was influencing everybody. KendoStar's brilliant without me winning Shiai, but these are natural things that would creep in my mind. You know, throughout my career, I do well. You know, a particular memory where I did pretty well at one of the European Championships about 10 years ago, and I was cool as a cucumber throughout the day. It was great. And I was doing some great Shiai throughout the day. Nice, calm. From a mental point of view, I say great Shiai. If I look back at the video, it was pretty rubbish. But but I was, you know, luck was on my side, and I was able to keep in control of my actions. And then when I got to like the real important match, well, the first real important match, then I let things sort of creep in the back of my mind and start to worry about the consequences. Yeah, what's going to happen if I lose? Rather than just carrying on in the vein that I did. And, you know, if I watch that video, I can see that all over. I'm all tense, I'm all shaking, I'm all everywhere. And it's, it cost me the match, of course. So yeah, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult though. Because you do care about the consequence of the match. The point, isn't it? But that's what Shiai is for, isn't it? Shiai is a mutual test. It's not a competition. It's a test of oneself and how you can overcome that, the fear of the consequences, or the desire of the consequences as well, right? Or the desire to avoid the consequences or achieve the consequences. Consequences aren't always negative, right? There could be victory. That's a consequence of the Shiai. Someone has to win. It's a shobu. That's what it means. So yeah, it's really, I don't know if there's a mental training you can do, but you do have to try to keep yourself in a zone where you are but trying to not to dwell on or concentrate on consequences. What shall I do if I lose this? What's going to happen if I lose this? I really don't want to lose this. People are going to think I'm rubbish. What are people going to think? What's my sensei going to think? What's my mum going to think? Whatever. You gotta try and avoid those thoughts and stick with, okay, next, stay calm, keep the match at my pace, keep my head in the game, when it's easy to drift out of it, again, to touch those consequences, right? It's hard. It's not easy. That's why there's very few people that are very, very successful at Shiai. Okay, how to attract people to Kendo part 2. Yeah, it's a tough one, eh? Don't really know. Yeah, I think, you know, I've talked about it before about trying to latch onto cultural influences, anything that could be possibly connected to Kendo. Could be any cultural thing, could be some sort of anime, could be a video game. A couple of years ago, Ghost of Tsushima dropped right on PS4. A great video game centered around samurai. Trying to latch onto that somehow. Could be anything, right? Could be, you know, Cobra Kai. That's a popular Netflix series, right? I know it's centered around karate, but, you know, there's a set of Kendo armor in that show. You know, there's all sorts of things you could do if you're creative to do that, and then you have to get exposure, right? So whether it's going to some local event, local Japan Day or Japan Matsuri or something like that, if there's one in your area, using the internet, using YouTube, you know, there's all sorts of things, but it's difficult because Kendo's pretty niche and people don't know anything about it or what it is at all. Outside of Japan, so it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. Seems to be my answer to everything. It's pretty tough. Hi, Fisher Sensei. May I ask for advice on how to improve my ski? I'm only Shodan, so I do not expect that I'll use it in any Shiai anytime soon. But it is a valid waza. It is. I'd like to hone that I'd like to hone so that I'll be able to utilize it competently, reliably, and most importantly, safely. It's pretty safe, let's be honest. What are common mistakes and habits one should take care to get rid of? Secondly, which Kendo seminar is your supreme favorite? And which have you learned the most from, if they're different? That's a good question. Ski is a tough one, right? It's a tough one, especially as it's like shrouded in this kind of like feeling of it's mysterious and it's dangerous. So you do it. It's like a 1-inch death punch technique. If you do it wrong, you know, is gonna like destroy half the planet. There's almost that feeling attached around it. Now, look, there can be potential risks centered around ski. It's the main reason that it's not allowed for under 15s, like up to junior high school in Japan. The reason for that, right? The reason you can't have, the reason it's different when it comes to adults, but the reason you can't have primary school or elementary school and junior high school kids skiing at each other, right, is because they're all different sizes, right? Right, there's shiai in Japan where you could have a 7-year-old against a 12-year-old. That can happen. And the 12-year-old could be a massive boy who's like already like 170 centimeters tall. And the 7-year-old could be a little girl who is, you know, only tiny. It's not common that shiai would happen, but it's not out of the realms of possibility, right? And likewise, you could get a junior high school, and this does happen. You know, first year junior high school kid is like 12, 13. And then a third year is like 14, 15, right? There's a big difference between a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, right? There is. And especially when mixed matches still can possibly happen. So a 12-year-old girl is often much smaller than a 15-year-old boy. So yeah, having them throwing ski at each other has obviously got safety concerns. That isn't quite the same when it gets to adult shiai, because we're all a little bit bigger. We don't tend to have as many differences in sizes to the same degree as children do. All right, it's not saying it doesn't happen. It does. But in fairness, ski needs to be. I'm not saying that beginners should start skiing at each other. They shouldn't. But there does need to be more openness around the teaching of it, so that when people get to Shodan and they've never done it before, they don't know what to do. Now, there's an argument to also say, in fairness, that, and it's a good one, thinking about it, that you should have some element of shinai control before you start throwing ski around. And that is definitely the case as well. So it's not good for beginners to start throwing it around, but it's also not the best, I think, to start shrouding it from them and saying, no, this is the secret Shodan technique either. All right. Now, how do you improve it? You practice it. Now, that's not so easy, because you start throwing it around in Jigeko, you're not gonna get anywhere. You need to be able to practice it with a willing motodachi. All right. So ask somebody if you can practice it. If you get the opportunity to do like a free waza practice where you get to choose what waza you're going to practice, ask to practice ski. Ask your teacher if they will help you with it. But the main things you have to do with ski is there's two things. It's all about using your feet. All right. So you don't ski with your hands. You don't ski with your hands like this. You ski with your hips. All right. So fumikomi forward. Keep your hips square, and then you raise your left hand slightly. See if I can get this on the camera. As you do the ski, you raise your left hand slightly. All right. Now, in the beginning, you can keep in chudan just while you practice accuracy, and just step forward and just touch it on the ago, right? Step forward and touch it on. And then what you can do is you get better and better, start from further away. start with a bit of a fumikomi and start to just stretch the left hand out a little bit, but keep the left hand in the middle and don't let it come up like this. All right. If you if you don't bring the left hand into the waza when you start to do it for real, then your shinai is going to go this way when you hit it. All right. So you do need an element of tenuchi in ski. It's different to some of the other strikes, but you do need it. All right. So you need to think about using your feet, and you need to make sure that you're using your left hand properly gripped and you're keeping it on the center. All right. Start slow and build it up. All right. You'll do it. It's not a super common, or it's not even a super useful waza, let's be honest. But it exists because it is a situationally useful technique. All right. But it's not like a bread and butter waza, let's be honest. Right. You could be a perfectly successful kendoka without ever doing ski in your entire life. You could. Not saying you should. So calm down there, keyboard warrior. Right. Next one. Well, no, it's second part of your question. My supreme favorite seminar. I don't go to a lot of seminars these days. Certainly not on the sort of learning side. I never went to any in Japan, so they don't really have kendo seminars in Japan. They have shimpan seminars and the odd kata seminar, but they don't really have like a kendo seminar. Certainly not for adults to go on to. But the best ones I've been to have always been the ones that are from an official ZNKR, All Japan Kendo Federation, delegated senseis. They are by far and away the best seminar you could ever attend, because you're learning directly from the source. What you get is the ZNKR will send these superstar senseis that your average Japanese kendoka would never get access to. And you get to learn directly from the source. I mean, these guys are the kind of like metaphorical apostles of kendo, right? You are learning direct from the source. What they say is correct, yeah, because they have been delegated to pass on that information. It gets difficult. I'm very privileged because I often get the opportunity to not only attend these seminars but also work in the remit of being a translator at them as well. So I get a little bit of extra access to the sensei's teaching, and I also am able to be confident about the message that they are conveying being accurately communicated. Now, I'm not saying I'm the best translator in the entire world, because I'm not. But what I do feel confident in my abilities is that I am able to convey the message that they're wanting to put across, and generally in the way that they want me to do it. So it's not hard. It's not easy to do that. It's a hard job to translate and properly communicate. And it happens a lot where that's not done very well, and then the wrong message is actually taken from it, because a lot of people attend these seminars with sort of preconceived ideas. Need a sip of my tea because I'm losing my voice. Excuse me, with these preconceived ideas, and they're looking for validation on them, and then what they do is they sort of hear something that the sensei didn't really say if it's not translated properly and properly communicated to them. So there is a bit of an issue there. I've seen this a lot. I've seen it happen a lot recently with like the new Shiai rules, for example. Like there's some wishful thinking in there that's being sort of like, it's not clearly laid out necessarily in the translation. So you've got people who have got this sort of wishful idea of what they want the senseis to mean, to just connect the dots themselves, and they're not necessarily connecting them in the right place. But that's a conversation for someone else. So yeah, anything from the ZNKR where they've come and taught, I've always found absolutely amazing. And I've been super lucky to be able to join these seminars with absolute legends. You know, your Higashi senseis, your Suzuki senseis, your Hamasaki senseis, Iwatate senseis. Then there's more. I'm not, omitting the names from that list. It's just off the top of my head. It doesn't mean that I think they're any worse or anything before anyone gets in there. But I will stress There's lots of seminars out there where senseis come from Japan, and they're not necessarily sent direct from the ZNKR. That's not always a bad thing. It doesn't mean that that seminar is rubbish or pointless, but it's not the same. It's not the same as them being officially delegated by the ZNKR to communicate a specific message that the ZNKR wants to be delivered, right? And that is an extremely important difference, and why I think those seminars are the best ones. I'll probably leave it at that before that rabbit hole gets a little bit out of control, more so than it already has. Okay, right. My voice is doing some weird stuff today. Okay, hello again, Fisher Sensei. First off, I wanted to say thanks for the advice you've given me over the past year. My friend and I successfully passed our exams at the AUSKF summer camp a few weeks ago. Fantastic, well done, good job. I got several comments about my brown stitching victory burger, and one fellow commented it was the nicest looking burger he'd ever seen. So I did my best to rep KendoStar while I was there. I noticed a few things at the seminar I wanted to take on. Well, great, I'm glad you got comments on the victory burger. The brown stitching on it looks brilliant. Let's be honest, the victory burger is a fantastic looking burger set. So well done on getting that as well. One, when watching the footwork of some higher ranked Kenshi, I noticed some would have their toes pointed down to the floor, almost like they were curling their toes. Right before their Fumikomi, their toes would splay back out for what sounded like a great stamp. Is this some kind of footwork technique I've not heard about, or am I reading too much into other people's habits? Second one, you're reading too much into other people's habits. It's everyone's got their own little idiosyncrasies about how they specifically approach the finer aspects of Fumikomi, and there's a few different ways people do it. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I noticed that many of the really good Kenshi have explosive momentum that seems to get even faster after they strike until they turn around again. Yes. Do you have any tips or advice in improving the ability to throttle up your momentum after the initial launch forward? Yes, I do. Right, so I'll answer this before we move to number 3. One, Tame. I think there's another question about Tame. I sort of saw it when I was copying across, but Tame is the preparedness to strike, the power all charged up and loaded like a coil spring in your left calf, ready to launch forward, bam, at any moment. Yeah, you need to have that. So make sure that in your kamae, you've got your power already ready to go in your left calf, and there's on the ball of your left foot, it should be sort of pushing diagonally down and backwards, sort of into the floor as you're in your kamae, all right? Not too much, but that's, but diagonally down and backwards so that you are ready, pressure, and bam, able to strike immediately. Then you have to concentrate in your keiko, in your everyday practice, in your kirikaishi, uchikomi, kihon geiko. Bam, fumikomi, quickly left one comes up. That's step 1. Making sure that the left one comes up. You can fix this in suburi as well. When you do your suburi, make sure that your left one comes with the right one, and it's not this way. What? Ba-bam, 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 this way, right? Then when you do your fumikomi, yeah? So you have to think about your fumikomi is your launch into the strike, not your stamp on the floor. Stamp on the floor is part of it. That is what fumikomi really is. But it's as much about the fumikiri as the fumikomi, all right? So don't think about planting the right foot on the floor, but think about launching your body forward from your left foot, bam, bam, and the left one comes in straight after the right. And then step 2, am I on step 2 or 3? Don't know. Next step, after that hits the floor, this comes straight up after it, and then immediately pushes off the right one again. That next step, if we say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it has to be like this. 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3, yeah? 1, 2, 3, yeah? That number 3 has to be a focus of your everyday practice, okay? Has to be a focus of your everyday practice. Really struggled with it myself. I really struggled with it myself up till about 5th Dan, if I'm honest with you. I wish I'd focused on it when I was younger. I really do. But yeah, okay. And I'll give you a little tip. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be like fire raging in the eyes, steam coming out the ears, bash, 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 bash on the keyboard. That's wrong. Okay, ready for this? Another controversial one. It's not super bad actually. It's not super. I'm exaggerating a bit. I'm sort of hoping for it, I think. But anyway. 1, 2, 3 is what I said, right? And it's that time between 2 and 3. You're not supposed to cross the left in front of the right. Right? You know, in Pirates of the Caribbean, where they say that the Pirates Code is more like guidelines, think of that step. If you do it fast enough, no one will see if your left foot slightly goes in front. There's a risk. There's a risk there's a risk if your left foot comes as far up as your right, or even a little bit past it. There's a risk because you'll be obviously less balanced. Fast enough. You see that? Like that. Okay, but with your feet, not your hands. Yeah. Technically, if anyone asks, yeah, it's right, left, right. But in practice, a little bit, you can get away with that. All right? All right? Don't tell anyone I told you that. Okay. Okay, Joey Jigeko is looking up to face Tanetoshi Terachi Sensei, but lines for the 3 Hachdown were so long, given the 300 people there, that I only got 3 matches total before it was all over. Until I reach the middle Dan ranks or higher, should I focus future efforts into getting more Keiko time with as many senseis as I can in the seminars, or go for the fewer matches with the high ranked senseis? Go for the fewer matches with the high ranked senseis. Definitely. Look. Not deriding practicing with the other senseis. You should practice with as many senseis as you possibly can, but start at the top and work down. Yeah, because quality is king, right? Quality is king. You will, if you miss that chance to practice with Terachi Sensei or whoever, another legend sensei, like you'll never get the chance again, possibly, never. And yeah, you might not benefit from it as much as you might if you were a higher grade, perhaps. But it's once in a lifetime, potentially, to do it, yeah? You never know. You never know. Yeah, when I was like young and stupid, now I'm old and stupid, but when I was young and stupid, I often did the latter, where that's the latter, is that right? Yeah. No, the former, where I just tried to practice with other people and my peers, and I avoided practicing with some of these super high grade senseis because I was again similar to the issue with the Shiai. I was too mentally weak, and I was worried that they'd batter me, or I don't think my ego could cope with it, and it's such a waste. There's a lot of senseis that came over here, and I didn't manage to practice with them. Not necessarily here, but like at events that I was at, like Europeans or World Championships, something like that. I'd sometimes seek out the easier Keiko instead of going for the good Keiko, or the ones I should have. Like I say, especially in my younger, stupider years. And I regret that now. So don't do it. All right, go and practice with those legends when you get the chance. You never know when the chance will come again, if ever. How does one deal with rough opponents who shove people around and strike haphazardly? Even if we evade or deflect those blows or face them head on, it's hard to make my eye for your own strikes as they just keep charging and things descend into a wrestling match. When is it not good Kendo? While this is not good Kendo, it would be helpful to know how to deal with such situations. Thank you. Okay, so you need better footwork. They're really easy to deal with, these people. Really, really easy. Because their movements are cumbersome and predictable. But to deal with it, you need good footwork, and you need to be able to move effortlessly. Still can't say it. Effortlessly and smoothly around the shiaijo in the direction that you want to at will, and that's easier said than done. So if they come in like this, you have to be able to turn. For a start, when they start trying to push, turn, hikiwaza, separate, then as they come rushing in, pam, you can hit them. Easy. Easy. It's pretty easy, honestly. I know it doesn't sound it, 'cause some of them are super awkward, but you know, if you keep it calm, don't get caught up in what they're doing. Or be like, oh my god, this one's, oh no, they're gonna do, you know, I don't know what to do. Don't get caught up in that. Just keep you cool. Move yourself around the Shiai jaw, and then wait for the right chance. You'll hit them, and it's done. It's done. Yeah. And if it's in Jigeko, that's a bit difficult. If it's Jigeko rather than Shiai, you do that a bit still, same sort of thing, but then, you know, I've had it as well where you descend into this point where the other person's like, not even, it's like, this isn't even Kendo. This guy's just flailing a shinai at me here. I just sort of defend myself and try not to get hurt until time's up. If it gets to that point. If it gets to that point. And I've already, I mean, don't forget, I'm in a position where usually someone like that is junior to me. So I'll probably have a word as well and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on here, pal? And if that doesn't work, then yeah, I'll just sort of stay out of the way. Defend myself a bit. Try and keep away. Try to reduce the interaction with them as much as I can until the time's over. And if I'm in control of the time, I'll be like, okay, let's do Bonshobu. Hey, oh, you got my men. Hi, finished. Bye. And just get him out of there. Okay, hi Andy. I've been told to improve my Tame and was wondering if you could explain about the time situation and situations where it's better to try multiple attacks, where it's best to throw yourself behind a single attack. That's quite an interesting one. This sort of taps into a little bit a point that I made in the feedback video that I did yesterday, which was about awareness of what's happening in your tachiai, whatever the situation is. Tame is readiness to strike, all right? Readiness to strike in your left leg specifically. So it means that when you're in your kamae, your left leg is in a position where you're ready to bam, strike immediately. It's not like standing there waiting, or it's not even waiting. I mean, it is waiting, but people pretend it's not waiting and say, I'm building up pressure. It's like, well, how are you building up pressure? You build up pressure by, I hate that word pressure as well in Kendo. It's like, it's not pressure, is it? What you do is you create an impression on the other person that you're going to strike them and you are a realistic threat. And if they don't respond to you, they are in serious trouble. That is what you do, right? That is that is seme basically, and that manifests itself through tame, which is the being able to back that up. Yeah, tameru means to like collect or to like gather, and that's essentially what you're doing. You're gathering or collecting that readiness, that power, that ability to strike immediately, and you do that by having your left leg ready to take you to strike bam, immediately when they can't even see. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what Tame is. It's not this kind of like, okay, I'm building up pressure. It's not that. It's not that. That's nothing. That's like a rubbish performance. Because you see it all the time, like these guys are like, like this, and then one of them attacks the other one, goes like this. It's like, okay. Right then, where was that pressure you were talking about? Like, because it's, you know, it's not what's supposed to happen, yeah? It's like, yeah, there is pressure, mental pressure, but it's like created from you being able to be realistically threatening. And if you're not, it doesn't sell, you know what I mean? So in terms of like multiple attacks or behind a single attack, well, you know, in essence, you would always throw yourself behind a single attack. But I think what happens, right, is we often misconstrue this concept of as being, right, put yourself behind a single attack and throw that no matter what happens. And like, you kind of marry yourself to that idea and then you become really stale. And what happens is two people start fighting at each other, which is the right word in this case, where they just throw single attacks at each other and everything resets and they start again and they throw an attack at each other and then they reset and it starts again. The Shiai has no flow. There's no real Zanshin. There's no connection between the two that is constant. So that is, you know, what you have to do is you're here. Okay, right. What's going on here? What's going on here? Right. Okay. Right. Okay, didn't work. Okay, fine. But stay connected. Bam, bam. Okay, that one didn't work as well. Bam, next one. This one. Wow. Okay, kote. There we go. Yeah, it's connected every single time. Not just, yeah, man. Yeah. Kote. Yeah. Kote, man. And that's what you see a lot, right? When it needs to be more like connected this way. Yeah. Oh, you see, you make the strike. Pam, kote, kote. Zanshin, kamae. Next one. Yeah. Not, whew, yeah. Yeah. It's not easy. But what you have to be is you have to be aware of what's going on. So, you know, I talked about it in the video yesterday. It was in a grading. I thought it was a Sandan grading. Turned out it was a Yondan grading. But it doesn't matter. The comments are the same. And the applicant was so sold on the idea of doing Men Kaishido that regardless of what the opponent did, he was going to do this Men Kaishido. And when the opponent hit Kote, he sort of did this kind of awkward Men Kaishido. And it kind of looked a bit awkward because he was so committed to doing this. And even though it didn't play out how he wanted, he wasn't able to adapt. So you have to be aware. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to be aware of when the plan goes to plan and when it doesn't go to plan so that you can adapt it if necessary, yeah? We're nearly there. We've got 3 left, all right? 3 left. I know it's been a long one. So I've still got some of my tea left. Right. Hi Sensei, I hope all is well. In our group we have a girl who is pretty small, and when receiving taiatari she has a hard time holding her ground. She ends up getting pushed back fairly significantly, and more often than not pushed off a little off balance, bending back a little at the waist. No, we're not slamming into her or anything extreme. However, she's having difficulty receiving basic taiatari practice, so wondering if you had any advice how she could receive stronger. Also, other ways like retreating slightly to the hit so the hit isn't so strong, she could use to offset her size disadvantage. Thank you so much. Okay, first off, this is a fantastic question. I think it's something a lot of people struggle with. Right, so there's a handful of things here that need to be taken into consideration. I practice Kendo regularly with both of my kids, right? Now, one of them is 12, the other is 14. They are small. Right, they're reasonably tall these days, like whatever, but then they're like a lot smaller than I am. All right, especially a 12-year-old. Okay, but I can still practice the taiatari practice with her if I am sensible and she is able to properly receive. Okay, so let's start with me being sensible. So it means that when I do the taiatari, I don't crash into her with all of my force. Now, you said you're not crashing into her, but you still have to make sure that you are in control of your weight distribution at the point of taiatari. It's important. Taiatari, the goal of taiatari isn't to knock the other person over all of the time. Okay? Yeah, of course, sometimes in the Shiai, you might want to get them out of the Shiai jaw, something like that, and you need to do a strong one to get them over there. Even then, if I was doing Shiai with someone the size of my 12-year-old daughter and she stood at the corner of the Shiai jaw, I'm not going to launch her through the wall. I don't need to do that to get her out of the Shiai jaw. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of how much power I need to try and get her out without being excessive. All right? So you don't need to be super excessive. And I know you're saying that you're not doing that, right? But you need to be able to, when you're performing taiatari, you need to be able to govern the amount of force that you are applying to the technique, all right? You need to be able to do that. It is really important because if you're not going to be able to benefit from doing taiatari in the first place, all right? Which for the most part is some kind of hikiwaza or, you know, moving the opponent into a position where you want to. They're not going to end up where you want them to, and things aren't going to go the way you want them to if you just bowl them over, all right? So if you find yourself, and this isn't to you asking the question, this is to anyone out there that finds yourself in a shiai against someone much smaller, and you find that when you do the tayatari with them, they go flying, you're wrong. You're not very good at tayatari, all right? You don't need to do that, all right? Of course, I'm not talking about when you've got like two guys or girls or whatever that are this sort of roughly the same sort of size and ability, and one of them's off balance and you bash them and they go flying. That's different, right? That's a different situation to what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you've got a massive difference in size and you bashing someone and they go flying over that way. That's you doing tayatari wrong, yeah? So that's one thing. So yeah, everyone needs to make sure that they are really concentrating on making sure that tayatari is not over the top. Secondly, she obviously needs to work a bit on receiving as well, all right? She doesn't want to step back. She can't step back. It's not right for her to step back, all right? She has to do the opposite. She has to meet them, all right? Just to meet them with the tayatari of her own, okay? And she needs to make sure that her hips are back, not forward, all right? Because if they're forward, she's going to take that tayatari and she's going to go this way. But she needs to make sure the hips are back. And then when they come in for the tayatari, she steps forward slightly, half a step on her right leg and meets with a tayatari of her own, okay? A tayatari of her own. And the kakarite, the person attacking, has to make sure that they gauge the force that they're applying to the tayatari so that it's enough for them to do the exercise that they're working on, and not enough. Not so much that it sends her flying, okay? You have to be able to do that. It's possible. It is certainly possible. Go and give it a try. If you struggle with it, let me know again in a future Kendo rant, and we'll see if we can set up some kind of demonstration. Okay? Next one. Hello, Fish Sensei. I hope all is well on your side. Yeah, great. I have been discussing Zanshin with my training partners, and I usually get told that for Zanshin to be correct, you need to either pass by the other combatant or crash into them. Is it mandatory to somehow advance after a technique, or is it possible to have proper Yuko Dato by just standing still in techniques such as Debana Waza? Thank you very much for this space and your response. Good. Okay. What a perfectly timed question. Posted a video yesterday. It was an excerpt. Is that the right word? Excerpt. Anyway, it was a clip from a previous feedback video where I talked about how to do proper zanshin in your keiko, your jigeiko, or your shiai, or your grading. It's called We Have to Stop Doing This. What do we have to stop doing? We have to stop. Man! Where did the other person go? Oh, they're all the way over there. That's not zanshin, all right? You have to keep your eyes on them as much as possible. There's momentary points where you break eye contact. Fine. But you keep your intention and concentration towards them and you turn around as soon as you can. You don't want to stay on the spot, right? And sometimes they're not going to move out your way. They're not going to move out your way. They shouldn't. Right? So yeah, sometimes you might crash into them and then you can go backwards instead and get your distance this way if you want. Or you could stay there. And then Suruzariai could do that. Yeah. Zanshin isn't like which way you walk. It's like what's happening in your mind. That's the key, right? So what I want you to do, I want you to go and watch 2 videos. I want you to go into the search bar. After you finish this, I've only got 1 question left. All right, so finish this, then finish your cup of tea or coffee, and go in the search bar and type the Kendo Show, Zanshin, and go and watch that video. Then go and watch the Kendo Show. We Have to Stop Doing This. Do you know what you could do? You could just click underneath this video on the channel name. It'll take you to the channel. Show all the videos. Posted it like 2 or 3 days, like yesterday. So it must be like 2. There'll be this video, there'll be the feedback video I did, and then it's the next one. So it's 3 videos ago, including this one. Go and watch that. Talk all about it. Definitely answer your question. All right, but don't hit men and run off. Oh, don't do that. And stop teaching that. Stop it. It's wrong. How can it be right? Anyway, last one. Hi Sensei, how do you deal with Kendo burnout? Recently, I found myself enjoying practice way less, annoyed at both techniques and myself. We had this similar question last week. We didn't, because I didn't do a show last week. We had a similar question 2 weeks ago. You could take a break, take a week off, right? Or 2, max. Don't take more than 2. Take more than 2, it's going to be harder to go back. Take a bit of time off, all right? You'll probably start wanting to go back, all right? Reasonably soon. Thing is, this is natural. It's natural. Happens to me. Happens to me a lot. Especially the annoyed at both your techniques and yourself, because what it means is you're improving. It actually means you're getting better. So what happens is your ability increases, and along with it, inadvertently, what should increase with it is your expectations of yourself, because you know already that you're capable of doing a bit better, or you feel like you are, if nothing else, sorry. So when you don't quite achieve what you believe you're capable of, because essentially what happens is, right, your ability is here, and then probably your expectations of what you want your ability to be are like here. Obviously what you want it to be is probably somewhere here, and what you think, it should be is here. That's why you often say to yourself, I can do better, because you expect that you can do better, right? And obviously when this comes up here, this is your ability, your expectation doesn't stay there. It goes with it, doesn't it? So it's a constant battle, right? And this period exists too. It doesn't move like this, by the way. It does move like this. So you have this increase in ability to where it's on par with your expectations. And they're the times when you feel like you're on fire and your kendo's good, and then you go, nah, like that, right? Your brain sort of goes, yeah, nice try, buddy. And then you're back to square one, and it's like, oh, now it's not working. Now I've gone back to where I was before. And you haven't. It's just this has gone here. And then you go, oh, and you break through, and you're like, yes, I am on fire. I am killing it. Yes, I am. No, you're not. That's what happens, right? And that's why you start to feel like that. Because this period can be grueling and it can be long. Yeah. And sometimes it can be like this. And that's okay as well. It is. And it feels like you're making no progress. But you are. You really are. You just have to battle through it. But taking a break of a week or 2, right, doesn't make you do this. Taking a year, let's say 3 or 4 months off, that will make you go down a little. I can't hold my finger straight on this camera. What's going on? There we go. Right. taking a little break isn't going to make you go like this, but maybe a few months, 6 months, a year, you're going to start to slightly go like this. But and this is dangerous, because then what happens is you become less and less wanting to come back, because you know that you can't reach here immediately, and you don't want to go through this again. You don't want to start climbing that ladder again, right? But you take a week or 2 off, and you're like this still, and especially if you start to want to do kendo again, you start to creep up a little bit, even though you haven't been to the dojo, because you're in a better mental place, right? And then you get to the dojo and you start to make more steps, and then you're like, oh, I'm still not doing what I want. This isn't great. But sometimes you kind of go, you could be just here, and you go to the dojo, and bam, you're there, and it's, oh yes, I'm here, I'm getting there, and you only get it for a week or 2, and then you go bam, like that. Yeah, but you'll get there. Don't worry about it. Just take a bit of, miss a couple of practices, have a bit of a rest, watch some kendo videos if you want, or don't, and go back in a week or 2 and keep trying. Yeah, it means you're getting better. It does. Honest. At least I hope so, because it happens to me too. But that's what I've found so far over the years. There we are at the end of a mammoth, gargantuan episode of Kendo RANT. It was great. I finished my tea. Hope you finished tea or coffee as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me to the end. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Shop at KendoStar. See you next time. Bye-bye.